AOC called the New York Times last night because she didn't like the press she was getting over her appearance in Munich. And she said something on one level very rational. She said, I wasn't there as a presidential candidate. I wasn't even there as a Senate candidate. Here's the New York Times headline. After first big overseas trip, Ocasio-Cortez expresses frustrations. The congresswoman argued in an interview that presidential speculation, which included scrutiny of her slip-ups, had overshadowed her anti-authoritarian message at the Munich Security Conference. Congresswoman, meet me at camera 2. If you go to an international security conference filled with potential presidential candidates and have your team build up that you're there to be on the world stage, and you think that the press is going to cover your substantive and very interesting message about the threat of authoritarianism taking advantage of income inequality over your prospects as a presidential candidate, as evinced by your debut on the world stage, you are so naive that you shouldn't even be a member of the House. That's what I would say. Sure, the difference between what is and what ought to be. Should the entire coverage of her and everyone else at Munich be about the substance of their conversations? Sure, should it be? But my goodness, to call the New York Times and complain that people are covering you as a presidential candidate? Kevin?
The old adage, if you're explaining, you're losing. And that was not the format to kind of rehab what happened in Munich. You know, you write a substantive piece, you sit down with a reporter, not calling up and complaining about the coverage. Because again, and complaining that the spotlight that you have on yourself because of this speculation is the cause for it, I think is wrong too. This was misplayed by AOC. And this is going to come back, I think, if she decides to run for the Senate against Leader Schumer or for the presidency down the road, certainly. You know, Larry, as Larry said, you know, these ads write themselves, right? You play the 30-second soundbite of her scrambling to put together a sentence, and that's problematic.
Well, there's also a ham-handed narcissism here by calling the New York Times and trying to sort of do some sort of damage control this because it's made it, we're talking about it on Tuesday. It would have been a Monday story, it would have been over, we would have laughed about it. I did 2 segments on my radio show today because you bet I can't get enough of this. And we played the audio all over again because of it. Because here's the thing, whether she's there as a presidential candidate or she's there to be the lone voice in the wilderness speaking out against authoritarianism around the world, you can't change what she did and how she behaved and how she came across and how bad she was. And so that's still relevant, regardless of what her intentions of her appearance was.
I wish the New York Times reporter had asked her this question. Congressman, let's give you a mulligan. What is your view of the U.S. obligation to defend Taiwan? I'd love to hear her answer it again. Give her an hour to think about it. I still do not think that she has thought through a lot of these issues.